Welcome back to Self Made. I've got another very cool guest today. This is Julian from Dusk Till Dawn Cleaning up in the Adelaide Hills in South Australia. He's been in my Booked Out Cleaners school community for a while as well, and I thought it would be great to have him on to have a chat because he's at a stage in business where a lot of people probably think that they honestly will never be able to get. But it's funny because when I was speaking to Julian about this, he thought that he's sort of in the earlier stages of business and didn't think there'd be a lot of value to bring, which I straight up contested. I was like, no, you're in a place where a lot of people think they'll never even be able to get. So I think it's going to be very valuable to chat with Julian today. And so, mate, thanks very much for coming on and talking with us. Can you tell us a bit about how you got started and how you even ended up in a cleaning business?
Absolutely. Take it back to last year in around April. I was studying nursing in university and was contemplating switching my degree to business and try the theory way. But I got to thinking and thought, why don't I just put this into practice? And after 3 years, I could either have a degree and then start a business, or start a business, 3 years later have something to show for it. So went to the businesses, and I was thinking, okay, home service, let's start it off easy. I'm not a guru in the business world, so let's not shoot rocket higher. But wanted something that didn't have to chase leads and had a lot of recurring value, and cleaning ticked those boxes really well. And then it was niching down in the cleaning industry between car detailing, house cleaning, and pressure washing. And house cleaning took the crown for the most recurring work available.
Awesome. So you started July last year. We're now in July this year, so you're 12 months in, and you've gone from 0 to 140K in recurring revenue now, which is insane. How did you do that?
Well, the start was slow. It was really slow. Figuring out business for the first time, there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of failing, but it was slow. Started off in the Facebook groups. You can get booked out in Facebook easily. Then just learned business, learned a lot of the marketing, learned a lot of ads, a lot of websites, everything. I'm a very technical person, and I think that reflects very well within the business between automations and pipelines and having a lot of frameworks around those. But in terms of 0 to 140, it's really only picked up within the past 6 months. Came back from a trip, and as Jason once said, when you book a trip and you come back with all these new ideas, and have been really locked in since then. All the effort and time and money and blood goes into the business, but it's so exciting running it.
Yeah, awesome. And it's very true. When starting a business, the first couple months or even like the first year can be particularly slow. And that's sort of like the window where most people give up and just throw in the towel, and they tell themselves whatever excuses they want, like it was never going to work, I'm not good enough for this, or it's not a good opportunity. And so how did you kind of navigate those first couple of months when things were slow and you didn't have the momentum that you needed in order to grow?
It was difficult. It helped in the beginning because I had this great podcast to listen to called Self Maid. Selfless plug, but it really helped, not just in terms of cleaning, but it was really relative to business in general. And I think that in the beginning really just helped push and understand a lot of business, a lot of terms and niches that you wouldn't really understand or be introduced to if you coming at it like a blank wall without it. So that really helped. A lot of the frameworks that you suggested earlier on, in terms of like processes and standard operating procedures, the frameworks I really applied into the business, put that into hiring, put that into cleaning. Everything is a framework now. A lot of my avatars, they're based off of frameworks, as well as an avatar itself, but having frameworks for certain things, especially for hiring, is just phenomenal and a really big game changer, I'd say, compared to someone who didn't have the initial frameworks or know how to set frameworks. Definitely helped having a podcast to go through.
100%. Well, I'm glad you love the podcast, and it is very true. Like, you can either learn by doing it yourself, which is fine, but it takes a lot longer, or you can just learn from someone who's done it before you. So if you want to shortcut your way to getting to where you want to be, then, listening to a podcast or even just something as simple as watching videos or reading a book really can be the difference between getting somewhere in 6 months versus 2 years. And but you've done very well at that, and you've actually just hired your first employee. Was it today?
Yes, got the contract back, all signed.
Awesome. Congrats. So how did that go? Like, how did you find this person? How did you even know when it was time to hire that person, and walk us through that?
In terms of when I need to hire, it got to the point where my books were full and I was turning down work. And at that point, I was like, okay, do I go employee? Do I go contractor? And after hearing your friends' stories about contractors and quality control, I thought, okay, slow, steady growth is the route, so we want the employee decision. Started off on Seek and Indeed at the lower ad scales and failed tremendously. Also due to the fact that I didn't have a very strong and built-out hiring procedure. So did a review, looked at the results, had a few trial shifts, didn't go anywhere, so I thought, okay, let's restructure hiring. Ran a better CCAD, filtered out the bad applicants, got the qualified ones, did trial shifts, and ended with an employee. So I'm very, very proud about that.
So it wasn't perfect on the first try.
Oh, God, no. No, not at all.
There you go. It never is. Again, a lot of people quit because it's not what they expected it would be on the first go. But this is just another story, and this is more proof that it does take, sometimes multiple efforts, and you have to try time and time again for something to actually pay off. And so, like, it is a very big mental game trying to, especially when you're hiring staff. Like, I'm assuming because you're only 22, which is very young. Like, you've done very well for a young guy, from one young-ish guy to a younger guy. You've done well. But I'm assuming you didn't really have any experience in managing a team of staff before this. So how did you transition into being a leader? And well, I mean, it's very fresh now. It's literally day one. But what kind of what mental beliefs or barriers did you have to break down when you officially became an employer?
Yeah, good question. Coming from Steph's previous video, I also worked at Macca's, and I was a crew trainer.
Shout out Macca's.
Shout out Macca's. So there was some training areas through there that I learnt and held on to, and a lot of it was being a leader instead of a boss. And you hear all about it, but then putting it into practice is quite difficult to be able to give someone constructive criticism when it's in front of you and they're 20 years older and you're a 22-year-old correcting someone. And there's a lot of pressure on that, especially mentally, when everyone that applies for your job is older than you. Or majority, and that in itself, it's quite an alleviating feeling. You're like, wow, I'm employing people. That's really cool. Didn't think I'd ever get to this point, let alone a year ago. Had it envisioned, but then in theory and then in practice, it's a much realer thing.
It's going to be one domino after the next. Like, everyone has that journey, and there's going to be people listening to this now that haven't even started, and like I said, thinking they can't even get to where you are now. And you probably had that same belief before you started, as I did, as I think a lot of other people did. And your next domino will be going to, like, $250,000, $500,000, and then $1 million. And at each stage of the journey, you're probably going to think to yourself, like, oh, there's no way I can get to this stage. And, like, you're constantly just battling in your own mind, trying to, like, grapple with the idea that you can't get there. And then it's like, it's always just going to be this mental battle inside your own head throughout the journey. So that's why I'm always telling people, like, business is just 50%, like, the game is played inside your head. But going back to what you said about Macca's, I think it's actually a very good, like, gateway into business, because you get to learn a lot about frameworks and systems, because you can say what you want about Macca's, but they've got literally everything systemized to the point where a 14-year-old can run an entire store. Heck, even a monkey could do it. And yeah, you get to, like, manage people that are older than you. And, like, young people are given a lot of responsibility in that. So it's definitely a good gateway into business. And maybe that's a common thread between successful people in the cleaning industry. They started out at Macca's. So there you go. But yeah, so you've now got your first employee. You're in a position where you can continue to take on clients and grow. Did you build a wait list, or was it a pretty quick transition from being booked out into hiring your first employee?
Combination of both. I found that building a waitlist would be great in theory, but because of my locality in the smaller region that I am, of around about 40,000 people, not being the only one and competing with franchises like gyms or VIP, having a waitlist is quite pointless for me, unfortunately. People want to clean, someone says no, they move on. And I did follow up with quite a few contacts for a while about that, if they would be interested in a waitlist. And unfortunately, everyone wants the earliest available date and trying to promise someone something and then not falling back on it. It didn't really work out. But in terms of others and from you, I heard you had a very long wait list.
Cool. So you're in a pretty small city, 40,000 people. You said. Have you noticed that there's things that have worked better in a place like that in terms of marketing that surprised you, or things that you thought would work that didn't? Because I'm assuming it's largely like relationship focused in a place like that. Like you're probably, do you get a lot of referral business there as well, being a smaller community?
Yeah, I'd say our biggest lead income would be either Facebook referral or local SEO. That's been my best in terms of organic lead generation. Word of mouth and referrals, they definitely help. Coming from a trusted vouch, always better than a anonymous person through a screen. But yeah, definitely word of mouth has helped in the small region.
Yeah, well, I mean, my first location was similar sort of scenario, about 100,000 people in the city of Bunbury where I started, and followed a similar trajectory, booked out on Facebook. Facebook's great, especially in these smaller cities. And then that obviously leads to that referral base that grows, and then the word of mouth. SEO is really good. I ran a report. This is just for people listening that might find some value in this. I ran a report through AI that identified like the best pockets in Australia where you could launch a cleaning business and dominate local SEO. And all the ones that came back were like just small regional areas. I think the number one hottest area in Australia right now to launch a cleaning business is Townsville, funnily enough. So that was from my report. But it's because it's like that smaller city, town sort of vibe where you don't have a lot of local competition, but there's like a big enough population for you to really go in there and like just take over market share. So it sounds like you've kind of had a similar trajectory to me in that sense. You're obviously pretty switched on and technical. So how did you build your SEO presence in Adelaide? What things did you do, and what's worked, what hasn't? Take us through that.
I started off I live in a town called Mount Barker, and so I started off referring to myself as an Adelaide cleaning business. So I would get SEO from Adelaide and then Mount Barker and the Adelaide Hills, all over. And I was really just trying everything, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't. And then, unfortunately, SEO takes time. So every big refinement took some time, at least about 3 months to make a big change. And I just shortly refined my service area and SEO within that, and really focused on a lot of keywords and audiences, and consistency is the biggest thing with Google SEO, I found. Consistently doing photos, updates, anything to keep the page and Google aware that you still exist. And I found that pushed me to number one quite easily.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you've got a pretty firm idea of what your ideal client looks like, and that's really important in finding the right keywords as well, because you kind of want to get inside the customer's mind and think about what your potential audience is searching for on Google. And so, you know, if you're a carpet cleaner, for example, someone might be looking for like carpet cleaner for vacate clean or end of lease carpet cleaning. And so these are things that you need to be thinking about. This is a very broad example, but just thinking about who your ideal client is, and then thinking about what they would be searching, what interests them, and then kind of littering your website with different keyword focused things, and like taking the time to learn about what SEO is important and what Google looks for, and these different like search engines and LLMs, like your H1 tags, your sitemap, and all this stuff, which might sound like jargon, but it's worth brushing up on. But did you come up with like an ideal customer profile or avatar early on that you said, like, this is my ideal person, this is who I want to target in my ads? And how has that panned out?
Yeah, so around about 6 months in, probably saying around November at this point, I recently joined the school, and I had already figured out what an avatar was and how to broach that into the system. But I found that my main two inquiries were people with kids and people without kids. So I created avatars for both and targeted both as one just big audience, so I could attract to both rather than excluding either. That worked quite well, and the consistencies between families and non-families are pretty 50-50 still in terms of who I'm onboarding as clients.
Yeah, and it can make a really big difference. Literally just saying, like in your marketing messaging, like you can get more time back to spend with your kids or, whatever it may be. And just that one little tweak in your messaging can be the difference between you getting a client and not getting a client. So that's why it's so important to, you don't have to nail your ICP, but just have an idea of who it is. And you don't want to get too granular with it, especially if you're in a smaller area. Like you could really go all out with it and try to map out like every single personality trait and all these things. But if you're in a city of 40,000 people, you're just diluting it down further and further down until it's pretty much nothing. So you've got the right idea in there, and it's obviously done quite well. So you've done a lot of things right. Have there been any things that you've gotten wrong or any mistakes you've made that really stick out throughout the journey over the past year?
Oh God, yeah. About half of my revenue went to trial and error. And some may call that an idiot move, but oh God, it was great. It was great to trial everything. A lot of it were mistakes and idiot choices and waste of money, throwing it in the bin. I once did a letterbox drop and barely optimized the offer, and I think I got one lead in return and spent thousands of dollars on that and completely wasted it. I've jeopardized customers, I've jeopardized my website, failed at a lot of things. Failure is just, if you're not failing, you're not winning. And you're not
100%.
striving.
And it's only a mistake if you learn nothing from it. So in every mistake, in every failure, there is a seed of opportunity for something that you can learn or something you can pivot into, which will lead to a better outcome. So having that mindset is really important, which you clearly have. But on the flip side, what things have you done recently that have been really impactful for the business and have really worked well?
About 3 months ago, or 2 months ago now, I redid how I send quotes. I used to send it as a go high level estimate, and I put all of my pricing there, and it was just a really ugly quote. Since then, I changed that to a document and laid it out much nicer, collected people's information and spread it out a lot more thorough, so I could give them a proper quote, almost as like a commercial contract, but fully to each individual customer. I've done automations that I can automate whenever someone comes in. It pre-fills out the form, even the price as well, and it just sends it to their inbox once I've put in the schedule date. I've completely revamped the quoting system, and it has paid off tenfold. I've got, I think, a 40% close rate with quotes sent. So going from 10 to 40%. Yeah.
Hey, it's a 4x increase. It's pretty good. And what you're doing is as well, you're removing friction from the buying process for the customer, which is, I mean, I was going to say it's important, but you can tell how important it is by a 4x increase like that. So it kind of speaks for itself. But was that something that you identified earlier, like intentionally? You said like, oh, the sales process has some gaps that I could work on, or was it just one thing in like a chain of things that you were kind of playing around with and testing out to see what would happen?
Every quarter, I have a big chat with Claude, and I say, Claude, let's do a health check of the business, see where we're at, compare us to last goals, and I input all the current information, growth, loss, everything, not in terms of just profit, but within the business, so it gets a full, clear picture. I send it off, and it tells me essentially what my next goal should be focusing on from the prior quarter. And that really keeps me on check. And so I did it last quarter, found, my quotes, they're dropping. I'm not winning as many customers. Let's review that. And did a full overhaul, and it paid off.
That's really cool. So have you got like your own knowledge base built inside of Claude that it refers back to? Like, are you using Claude Code for this? Can you talk a bit about that?
I'm not using Claude Code directly. I have a Notion page with everything stored, and I have a conversation or a project with Claude for specific health checks. The knowledge base itself contains a list of rules to go through, what to cover, what to read, how to update the Notion book, everything. So it's always informed every time I have one of these health checks. So every time it goes through, it knows exactly where we are compared and what's different, what's changed, what hasn't. And that's really impactful.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this is something I think a lot of people should do, but I think it's a bit out of most people's scope at the moment. It is like one of those things that most people are still trying to wrap their head around, just prompting ChatGPT, let alone using like agentic AI and all this stuff, which is what that is. But one of the most impactful things I've done recently is a similar thing where I've got this, it's called an AI operating system, where I've basically extracted all the info from my brain, which now lives in what I call the Atlas. And then it also takes everything ongoing in my business, which is developing day by day, week by week. So that is in like an efforts, like encyclopedia sort of thing. So every management meeting we have, every team meeting, even like Q&A calls inside Booked Out Cleaners, I have AI agents that automatically download all those videos, transcribe them, put them in the knowledge vault, and then AI creates like a daily brief, a weekly brief, which summarizes things I may have missed. It looks at my emails, it looks at Slack messages, the transcriptions of these things. But then I also separate it. So I have my own daily, weekly, monthly brief where I'm just pretty much brain dumping whatever's on my plate, or just extracting thoughts in real time. And then they can talk to each other and cross correlate. So the AI's daily brief will pull things in that I've said throughout the week, which is just purely my thoughts and my text. And that's kind of where you get this like this perfect harmony of AI and your brain, where like a lot of people are just using AI at face value, which is always going to give you the average answer. Because if it doesn't have all the context of who you are, what your business is, and all these different things like what you've got, then all it's going to do is look out on the internet at all the information that it has available to it, and it gives you the average answer, which is what everyone else gets. So when you go a step deeper and you have like this knowledge layer that can accompany AI, similar to what you've done, it can be very, very impactful. And it's like you've got your own CFO, COO, CMO, C whatever, all wrapped up in one. So I think that's really cool. I think a lot of people, if they're not already catching on to it, it should be something that is on a lot of people's radars. So that's really awesome. How is that? When did you start that, and how did you know to even build this? Because there's not many people I know that are doing things like this.
In one of your Q&As a while ago, you mentioned Notion and went through it. I think it was going over your business matrix, and that intrigued me, and I wanted to replicate it because it's a good idea and it was really handy at the time. And it essentially evolved from having a business matrix into keeping up with concurrent data, probably around 3 months ago, when Claude really started to get good. And it was really just achievable. It's not as hard as it seems. I don't really touch Notion. I get Claude to touch it and I read through it. And just Claude being able to do that just takes a lot off of it. Obviously learning Notion, it's great, but you tell it to ChatGPT and it's already there every time. It's just easy. And I think that takes off friction as you as the business owner and entrepreneur.
Yeah, and that's essentially what you want to, the relationship you want to have with AI is that you become an orchestrator. Like what you said, you don't need to be touching Notion. You don't need to be editing things. You just get AI to do it, and you can orchestrate that and you can oversee it, which is really how it should be used. So that's really cool. And I'm glad that you kind of got that from me, so I can pat myself on the back for that one. Awesome. So let's go there as well. So you joined Booked Out Cleaners, the school program, in November last year. So you've been in there for about 8 months, 7 months, so about 5 months into your business journey. Where were you at in your business in terms of revenue size and whatnot when you joined? And then, what kind of changed to get from where you were then to then 140K?
I'm going to be completely honest about it. By 5 months, I was quite established as a business in terms of a lot of the smaller basic things. So when I first joined and had the accelerated course, I didn't necessarily need to use it. It definitely had important information, but 5 months in, I was quite past it. But a lot of the other programs within your classroom were really important, especially for getting commercial clients as a small town operator, trying to compete with the bigger leagues. It was definitely hard at first, trying to send a manual email, seeing if they were interested, and then being able to learn from your course and see about AI commercial writing, and doing that won me countless contracts in the early years. So that really set me afoot in terms of generating recurring revenue.
Awesome. I wish more people would use that Google scraping course I put out there. I was speaking to someone in the community and they landed like a 400K contract from sending out these cold emails with that thing. I'm always telling people like, go watch. It's like 2 videos. Just watch it, and it's all free. Like it's awesome. So, did you adopt that system? Were you doing the cold outreach method, or was this something else?
100%. So I did have commercial clients contact me organically, but still sent them contracts through the proposal, and it worked great. But yeah, as soon as I found out you could scrape contact off of Google Maps, being the technical that I am, I loved that. So I put that to use. I got all the industries that I would serve, created sectors for them, and created individually styled email bursts that would go to them in periods. So it was a nurtured, and I scraped all that information, put it in, sent it out to them, and I had about 60 contacts that I could send to each month, just a cold outreach from. That in itself
That's awesome.
generated quite a lot of revenue.
And that's all free as well. Like you don't have to pay for any of that besides just your time. What sort of clients did you pick up from that? What industry? What sort of businesses?
I, funnily enough, got a tire shop, 2 accounting offices. They were quite good, and I got a medical cancer clinic. I stopped after a while because I just couldn't take on any more commercial as a solo operator. But yeah, once new cleaner is on board, we'll start up the machine again.
Yeah, awesome. It's really cool when you can like just have this predictable system that you can turn on and off that you know will get you clients. So, and those are good clients as well. Accountants are really good, and they're actually really good referral partners because they've got more of your dream ICP, which is other businesses. So that's really good. And medical clinics, those are like the top of my commercial clients pyramid. We always love when we can get those. So how big are those contracts? Is it like 1 clean a week? Is it multiple cleans a week? What's that?
Yeah, so they're all weekly and bi-daily, some of them. So quite busy contracts. But yeah, they've all within the 5 figures. Not quite the 6 yet, but it's on board.
You'll get there. It's a stepping stone. You got to get the 5-figure contracts before the 6-figure one.
Yeah. So started them all off. They'd range from maybe 10,000 to at least 40,000 a year. So definitely for where I am in terms of revenue, very
really nice. Yeah, and now you've got the system. So I'm guessing you went through the hiring module inside Booked Out Cleaners, and is that the system you used to hire your first employee?
Yeah, I definitely took tributes from it, but ended up probably not trying it as well as I should, because obviously it didn't go on the rails for a while. But definitely after revamping it, I definitely used some frameworks from the hiring module to help select my new employee.
That's great. And you don't need to, like, there's going to be systems and SOPs in there. You don't need the full thing. You can just extract things from it that you're like, oh, this could fit well into my existing process, or like I can take inspiration from this and use it. So that's great. And now you're in a position where you've got that system and you know it's replicable and you can rely on it because it's all documented and it works. So now you can go from 1 employee to 2 to 3 to 4, 5, and you can just keep, you turn that tap back on for commercial leads. And now you're pretty much in a position where you have just this free runway ahead of you to scale to, $500,000 and beyond. So what are your plans for the next 12 months? Is it literally just that? You just want to hire more staff the exact same way you just did, and you want to do more outreach, grow the client base? Is there anything else that you've kind of changed your mind about or done differently recently? Do you have has your plan changed for the business, or is it pretty much just like, let's just grow with staff and get some more clients?
You asked Steph, what would you be doing in 5 years? And when I heard that, I was thinking, wow, that's a big question, especially in a business that can be so volatile within the next 3 months, and things can flip on this upside down and it can be a catastrophe. But I think a year to 18 months is a very good goal, sort of site. So ideally, I'd like to double revenue, if not triple it, because aim big. But ideally, refine the systems that I have once they start working. Because I found, as silly as it is, refining just produces even better and more efficient results. And I think a lot of people miss that. They build a system once and it works okay, and they don't go back to it. But it's all just doing it. That's that's the beginning. Actually starting something and it giving you effort, especially in a business where consistency and time takes time, it's really rewarding.
Yeah, I love that you said that too about refining systems. It's very true. You don't just set and forget these things. Like the landscape of the business changes, the market changes, your business philosophy and personal philosophy can change. And so you need to update your systems and frameworks to be consistent with that. So I think a lot of people get that wrong. Like they'll create something and they'll let it run for years. And this is like the trap that so many older businesses are in. And like this is why I've done so well in the areas that I've launched my business in, is that I just saw that there's businesses here. There's one cleaning business in Bunbury that's been running for 60 years. And you can tell, like, they're still built on 60-year-old premises. And so you need to stay current with the market and where things are going. Like a year ago, I was not using like virtually any AI in the business besides just some, basic things that would generate stuff like text generation stuff. I didn't even know what agentic AI was a year ago. Now I'm fully into it and like it's increased productivity. It's attributed to a lot of new revenue. So you constantly need to change things. You can't just create something and then forget about it and move on to the next thing. Have there been any things that you've created at the start of the business that you've gone back and changed based on just how your philosophy has changed since starting the business? I know that this was a big thing for me with my training system, which you're probably not there yet because you just obviously hired your first employee today. But like that was something that I created, and then I look back on it 6 months later, I'm like, I need to completely delete that and redo it from scratch. Like it's crazy how quick things change. So what's that been like for you?
I'd say everything that at the start of the business I created, I've either redone or completely remodeled. Nothing is staying. It has had to keep up with the level and momentum and the stage of business you're at. Because something that worked for getting you maybe 1 or 2 clients now doesn't cut it. It needs to be updated. It needs to be current with what the market is because it evolves and it changes very quickly. And as well for anything technical, it's a must, especially.
Did you have any false beliefs before you started the business that were quickly overwritten by just you doing it? Or as soon as you got into the business, you were like, oh, I was wrong about that? Because I know for me, I thought that my business would be built on like commercial clients, for example. I thought that was going to be my ticket to wealth. And then I quickly realized like the residential side is actually my bread and butter. And that's now like 85% of our business. So were there things you told yourself before you started that completely changed once you actually got into it?
Yeah. Going into it, I read or listened to an audiobook called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and that had a lot of really good perspectives as, say, a worker or an employee versus a manager versus I think there was a visionary or something. But it really gave me thoughts and insights to seeing myself as a worker working in the business rather than on it. And just a lot of perspectives that really shifted from when I first started to now in terms of mindset drastically. What my mindset was a year ago compared to now, it's vastly different. And that in terms with physical wellness, mental wellness, they've shifted a lot since starting.
Yeah, E-Myth is a great book as well. Like just going into the granular stuff of technicians versus managers versus leaders. Like I went through the same thing where I was a technician for a long time, and I still had staff, but I was still in that technician phase, and I had that technician mindset when I really needed to step into the manager role. And then I became the manager, and I had a decent team of staff, but I wasn't really leading properly. I wasn't really an entrepreneur. I wasn't steering the ship in the right direction. So I had to adopt that mindset, and it was like just one hurdle after the next. Whereas a lot of people do get stuck in that technician phase. So it is a good book. If you haven't read it, if you're listening to this, definitely go read it. I think I listened to the audiobook early on. I think I literally, in my first year of business, listened to it while I was at a vacate clean or something. I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense to me. So yeah, that's cool. But what was I going to say? Just completely derailed my train of thought. I tend to do that when I yap about nothing. So when you started the business, were you like casting the net wide? Were you doing lots of different types of services, or were you like really just honed in on like the recurring residential? Were you doing vacate cleans? Did you do oven cleans? Did you do window cleans? What did you kind of do early on? Because I know a lot of people do like just anything. Like they'll say yes to everything. What was your I don't know, philosophy on that?
I did everything.
Okay, there you go.
When I started out, I did window cleaning, oven cleaning, and lease cleaning, builders, you name it. Everything that sort of falls under the house cleaning premise, I did. And it took me quite a while to realize that a lot of that was just one-off jobs, and it wasn't recurring revenue. And that it was a sore patch when you looked at the next week and there wasn't any clients. And you're like, all right, really got to hone in on the services. So I went from probably 7 or 8 to 1.
Yeah. It's like when you go into a restaurant and you look at the menu and there's like 4 pages and there's 200 things on it, and you're like, I don't even know what I want, and this is making it harder for me to decide what I want by giving me more options. And it's like in a business sense, like it's harder to know what you want to do with your business when you're doing so many different things, and it makes it harder for you to get good at any of those things when you're trying to get good at so many different things. So, I mean, I guess it's the trap we all fall into, because I did that. It's good to hear that you did too, where you don't know what you don't know. Most people just say yes to whatever they can get. And then you kind of develop that understanding, and you're like, okay, I don't really want to do the one-off work anymore. It's not serving me. Long term, it's probably not viable. I want to look at continuity. So how early on did you move into like a recurring revenue model, and you just said, no, I'm not doing window cleans, oven cleans, or anything like that anymore?
Took me quite a while. I'd say by around December, I stopped offering everything and really focused on the recurring service. So probably solid 5 months into it. So it took a lot of trial and error.
Okay, and have you seen an increase in your demand for that one service you offer now since you've done that?
Oh yeah, all demand, probably 95% of it is for that one service. You get the odd wanting a one-off deep clean or an end of lease clean. They just come through as just being a house cleaner and on Google, unfortunately. So there isn't a whole lot you can do. I've tried the negative keywords, but obviously you still show up as cleaner. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you've done something like what I try to tell everyone to do, which is to just develop one core service offering. So with your house cleans, you just offer one service. Is that right? Like one standardized checklist that you do? Yeah. Cool. So that's cool. That's the other thing as well. Like going back to that menu principle in a restaurant, I see a lot of cleaning businesses out there that have different packages like bronze, silver, gold, like platinum, all this stuff. And it's like, people don't know what they want, and it's actually making it harder for them to decide by giving them all these options. So just having one core service offering that you can get really good at, which means that there's a point of difference there, because you are the one person that is the best at doing this thing. So you're basically selling in a vacuum, in a category of one. And when you try to scale the business, when you hire staff, it's easier to train them to do that one thing. And also on the customer side, it's easier for them to decide who they want to do business with, because it's very simply laid out, and it removes, again, the friction from doing business with you. So you've done that really well. How did you kind of introduce that checklist around the same time that you just got rid of all the other services as well?
No, so the initial service was recurring cleans and had everything else as sort of like an add-on service. But the checklist itself has changed and probably will continue to change for quite a while. But it initially changed every sort of few months when I first started. It's like, oh, I can add this on for value, or I'll take this off or add this. Really changed drastically from day 1 to day 365. Way different.
Yeah, and I see you've got a good amount of Google reviews as well. So is that another way that you are intentionally growing your like SEO and like reputation marketing, as I call it?
Yeah, I'd love to have more, and I've recently started offering like a monthly clean to the locals to give back in exchange for a Google review, just to build it up, because it impacts so much compared to everyone else in my area who maybe has sub 10. When you have nearly double that, it really stands out as a business.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed as well, I think this is mainly for cleaning businesses. It's probably different for all kinds of industries, like restaurants. Just by default are going to have lots and lots of reviews. But in cleaning businesses and service businesses, having like 30 reviews is sort of the threshold where Google really starts to push you up in the rankings. I noticed that in my second location, obviously started from 0 reviews, and things were pretty slow. Like we weren't ranking very high, even though the website was really good and we had that domain authority and brand authority. But it wasn't until I got around 30 reviews, that threshold, where I noticed our rankings just skyrocketed. So for anyone listening, that's kind of like a good KPI to set for yourself, or like a good benchmark, is around 30 reviews. Because like you said, a lot of people in business, in the cleaning business especially, there's been people that have been running for like 20 years, and you look on their Google and they might have like 3 reviews, probably because they've literally never asked for them. And those are just 3 people that, for whatever reason, went out of their way to leave a review. But I think everyone that runs a cleaning business or any type of home service business needs to take it upon themselves to survey their clients, ask for reviews, and not just look at that as like a vanity metric, but actually as something that can really grow your business and add like another marketing channel on, because it really does change things. Like you said, even if someone's just looking and they're comparing A to B, if you've got 30 reviews and the other one's got 10, they're just going to go with you. But then also, like, it's just going to push you higher in search and get you more visibility and thus more customers. So really good that that you've done that. What's kind of your long-term vision for the business? I know you've only been operating for a year, so it's your vision probably changes every month, but where would you like this business to go one day? Is it something that you just want to continue to grow? Is it something that you want to sell one day, expand? Walk us through that.
Started the business with a pretty clear goal in mind. I'd like to be able to run it without me touching it. So obviously getting it under management, and, you know, a big exit is a big exit, but until and if running it under management, where I don't have to do anything and pretty well just oversee, become pretty autonomous in the business.
It's a pretty good goal. And so you went away on a holiday recently. That was obviously when you had no staff. How did you kind of manage that with all your clients? Did you just let people know that you'd be closed for a couple of weeks, or because it's cool that you would, like, most people get scared to do that because they're scared of losing clients if they're away. But so I think that's good to share. How did you manage that?
I'd say just building really good relationships with your clients and having that customer base. Obviously, as you get bigger and don't have your finger on the pulse as much, it's harder. But being in a position that I was, I hired a temp for a few weeks and had them cover my commercial contracts, and gave my residentials months in advance notice. I also worked through Christmas, so that was also kind of
gotcha. Yeah. Cool. And so, I mean, you on the note of keeping your finger on the pulse, what are some numbers that you religiously track in the business? Because I know that you're very similar to me. You're technical. You like to look at the numbers and all the metrics. What are some things that you're checking every day, every week, every month as kind of like a sanity check for, the direction the business is headed in?
Google does this nice thing where it sends you an analytics of your Google business profile, and I religiously track the percentage to see if it goes up or if it goes down, and it's religiously gone up very consistently, marginally from when I first started, but still consistently growth in terms of my Google business profile visits, which I'd say is probably my biggest nest egg. Really, it generates the most customers for me currently. In terms of numbers, the business, I like to see the churn and lead sort of income. That really just, it's rewarding to know that it's working after spending so much time optimizing the website and the business profile, and as much as I can SEO wise to see it's like, oh, it's a Google lead, it's working. Just feeling the reward for something that takes consistency and time, and once left is out of your control, and to see it rewarding you, that really touches the spot, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I love watching the numbers tick up every day. Another really good thing that people can do is, like, the Google, when they generate reports like your SEO report or like my business analytics and stuff like that, you can literally just run that through something like Claude or Claude Code and just say everything that it said isn't good, make it good. And it can do that for you. So that's like a really good feedback loop that anyone listening to this can try. Like, if you're savvy enough to download Claude and put a file into the chat box. Like, it's amazing what it can do. When I relaunched my website, I did a similar thing where like I had Google analyze the page speed, the on-site SEO, even like security, all these things, and then I just ran it through Claude and I said, just keep making this better until you no longer can make it any better. And the scores went from like 40, 50, all the way up to like 99. I think my SEO score is literally 100 out of 100. So that's like a really, really low level, like actually high level, but very low hanging fruit sort of thing that you can do. Have you, because I think, did you build your website with Claude, with AI?
No, I built it within Go High Level in something called AI Studio, which is essentially a Lovable, but within Go High Level.
Right.
So I lost SEO points for it, but since revitalizing the website, I've only heard good things. People are like, oh, I found so much information. It looks so good. It runs well. It runs amazing. SEO scores at 100. So whilst I do lose a lot of SEO functionality, especially in terms of website crawlers, as the page is built with React and JS, the trade for how customizable it is and being able to tell it what I want on the keyboard and it pops up instantly, it's just uncomparable. I'm sure it's good with Claude, but moving everything over now, all the time spent, that'll be a future project.
Yeah, look, you kind of just pick your battles. And a lot of people still don't have websites, and I think there's still that notion of like difficulty. Like a lot of people still think it's difficult to start up a website and you need to go and pay a developer thousands of dollars. Because even 2 years ago, that was somewhat true, where you did need a decent amount of technical know-how, or if you wanted to pay someone, it would cost you a fair bit. But these days, you can go on High Level, you can go to literally any website generator or even just WordPress and run it through like an AI prompt, and it will generate you like pretty much a pinpoint what you're looking for website. And so I don't think there's any excuse for a business not to have a website in this day and age. And it's like a very big disadvantage that I still see. Like there's so many cleaning businesses that don't have one, or their website's like a Facebook page, which just isn't good enough. And you're leaving so much money on the table. So either taking the time to do it yourself or just realizing that the opportunity is there and there is a massive opportunity cost that's not being realized by you not just paying someone to develop a website. Like take it from Julian. He's obviously you've made a lot of money just by having a website and people find you through that website and that SEO, as have I. My website has been like the cornerstone of like 80% of our growth over the last 7 years. So I would say that's like one of the more important things that a lot of people are just not paying enough. Not paying enough attention to, not putting enough weight on it. Really, really interesting how a lot of people still haven't kind of caught up in that space yet. But what other things have you sort of, because I'm sure you've got lots of ideas about things you want to do in the business and, you know, you've only got so many hours in the day. What are some things that you want to build at the moment that you they haven't really come to fruition yet?
It's difficult to say at this stage, as a lot of that will soon be released as I trial and error having an employee and going over everything like that. Having the systems to deal with an employee, especially when they're sick and it's just me and her. There's only so much that can fall back on me. But ensuring systems that are in place to cause the least amount of havoc once something goes wrong. I'd say risk management. I do a lot of that with my automations, so not texting someone twice by accident and just causing the least amount of damage possible if it happens.
Yeah, reducing exposure to risk is a pretty big one. I'm quite risk averse. I did like a whole interview with AI, and at the end of it, it was like, wow, you are very risk averse. We should like make a whole document about this in the knowledge base, because this is like a core foundation of your entire philosophy. But anyway, so you've got the first employee now. How are you kind of offloading the work that you're doing? Because you've gone from doing all the cleaning yourself and wearing all the hats of running the business. Do you then like cut your workload in half and give half of that to the cleaner? What are they actually going to be kind of taking off your plate?
They won't be taking half of my plate, but I will be starting off early, typically around 1 to 3 shifts to start off with. Once that's filled, I'm going to hire my second employee and have them in the trial phase and obviously get them up to the second point. And by then, I'll have enough sort of availability to give cleans away and take on more cleans at the same time. And then from there, to just pull and expand as much as everyone as a cleaner would like. 5 days a week doing 8 hours a day. It's a lot of cleaning, and that from your experience, that only just causes burnout and churn within staff. So I've taken a lot of heed from other people's experiences with staff early on, and I think doing that approach, giving them not major hours and keeping them pretty flexible, will be the best approach to grow from at least 1 to maybe 5 to 10 from that stage.
Yeah, brilliant. And so like I said in the beginning of the episode, you've done something a lot of people probably tell themselves that they would not be able to do, which is go from 0 to 100K and actually beyond 100K now. What are some pieces of advice or tips that you would give to someone that's either very early on in their business journey or hasn't started one but wants to?
I would say when I first started, I told myself year 1 would be crap, to be dreadful, it's not going to work, you're not going to make any money. It's not that it's not going to work, it's just going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. Year 2 is going to be even tougher, just as worse, if not double, and you're probably still not going to make any money. But by year 3, it'll get better and everything will have settled. And giving that as a rough guideline to trialing and erroring as much as possible. It's a lot of work. It's not easy. It takes up a lot of time. Compared to being an employee with a job, you work for 8 hours and you're off. But being a solo operator, you're on 8 hours, 16 hours, you're thinking while you're sleeping. You're always on it. And obviously having a work-life balance helps, but as a business owner, it's really...
You don't really get that, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think our minds are like polluted by what's normal. Like what's normal is you go to school, you can then like go out of school into a job, you can pursue higher education, and then you go into like a higher paying job with the skills that you've acquired. And it's like a very linear pathway. It's very structured, like 9 to 5, all this stuff. In a business, all of that goes out the window. And I think it contradicts everything that you think is normal. Like you talk about like, I was no stranger to like 18-hour days and doing this six days a week. And yeah, it's just like a very hard thing to wrap your head around because one, it's not taught to us. It's not really shown to us. And all the other people around you who are doing, the quote unquote normal thing, they're working normal jobs, going to uni, and they've got work-life balance. Like they're going to be influencing you or de-influencing you to not do what you want to do. So like, it's just a constant uphill battle in the first couple of years. And I really think that if you can treat it as a learning experience rather than an earning experience, because I think a lot of people also go into business because they think that you can make a lot of money, which you can, but these are people that are looking at the end result or the outcome of years and years of hard work, persistence, etc. But if you can treat it as a learning experience, like you've done, and just say to yourself, like the first year is probably going to suck, probably won't make money, and just set that expectation for yourself, then it makes it a lot easier. And you can sort of just treat the first couple of years of your business as like a uni degree. Like you're essentially learning, but you're also earning while you're learning. So it's good. It's like doing a TAFE apprenticeship, except you're not getting paid $6 an hour, which is great. And then the upside of that long term is really good. I was just talking to Stacey, the manager of one of my businesses. She just got back from a 3-week holiday that she took. So she has a second in charge in Bunbury, our main location, and that person was her stand-in for the time she was away. She essentially just disconnected from the business, did not have any inclination of what was going on, didn't have any hand in the operations while she was away. She came back 3 weeks later, and the business had grown without her. It functioned fully without her. And I called her this morning, and she was just like, it was like this, she was almost shocked. She was like, I can't believe that I was able to go away. And she got paid like her salary plus a bonus for the previous quarter. She got a bonus on day 1 of her holiday, which was great. It was a very, very big bonus, multiple thousands of dollars. And yeah, it was like, you just unlock different stages of the business as you go. I was telling her, like, I did this with her. I left the business for a month. I went away. I threw her in. She did well. And now she's in that position where she can leave the business, not even as a business owner, but as just a manager. She can leave the business and it can run without her, and she's still being paid for all the stuff that she put in the beginning, which I think is the main point. Like, all the work you're doing now, sure, you may not be earning a lot of money and you may be putting a lot of time in, but it pays dividends in the future. And it can pay dividends in so many different ways. Like, I now have a business where it can not only run without me, but it can run without the manager. And the manager and myself can both still get paid while we're both away. So it just unlocks so many opportunities and opens so many doors. And I thought that was a really cool convo I had with Stacey, and it was like a full circle moment for us. And it was like very, very special for me, because that was like the first time that she's been able to just like leave. And, we've been building up to this, and it's really cool when you can do that. And that's the other thing that business will bring you that nothing else will. It's like that fulfillment and that sense of like real accomplishment that you're just never going to get from, working for someone else, unless you're in, like, it's like Stacey works for me. She doesn't have ownership, but she has ownership over her role and what she does. And it's really cool when you're able to give opportunities like that to people, as you're now experiencing by employing people. So no, it's really cool. And I guess what can we say in closing? We've covered how you started, how you got to where you are now. I guess all that's really left is maybe we can talk about the school a little bit. Let's do a little plug for the school, which is relaunching soon. So you joined, what was it, 5 months into running a business, or 7 months in? What would you say to the people listening to this about the impact that the Booked Out Cleaners program had on your business journey? What sort of growth did you have in that time, and would you recommend it to other people? Obviously, they can't join now, but it's going to be relaunching in the future. So would you recommend people join when it relaunches?
Yeah, when I first joined, I didn't see the value in a lot of things. Stuck in it a bit more, did a couple of the courses, and still didn't see the biggest value there. And then I found the Q&A calls from 2024, 2025, and now 2026. And I would easily say that they have been the most valuable pieces of information that I could subtract from school. Having 2 years worth of Q&As, people being in my similar situation, being in much higher situations, getting responses and methods from someone who has done it and been it all, that in itself was the most valuable information to me. I'm not going to say I recommend the school just for the Q&As, but it's...
Well, that's interesting because a lot of people join, like I hear different things, like at different stages of the journey, you'll be looking for different things. And there's some people that love the courses and never even watch the Q&As. There's some people that haven't gone through a course, but they join all the Q&As. There's a bit of both. And so I like that you said, like, there were some things you didn't find value in, which is completely normal. There's so many things in there, and I try to cater to like a pretty wide range of different problems and stuff. Were there any courses where you found a lot of value? Obviously, there was the commercial outreach one. Is that the first one that really like just changed or shifted the pace for you in the business?
I'd say it was definitely a major boost. Going across them off the top of my head, there was a Xero course, and I'd already learned Xero by that point. And the hiring, and there's a handbook course or something. I'm getting confused, but I
can't even remember what I put out there.
The commercial lead generator, pamphlet generator, definitely was the second most value in terms of everything from the classroom. Just having a new perspective of how to gain leads, because at that point I was thinking, what other audience sort of pools can I stream into? I've done Facebook, I'm trying the social media, I'm trying websites, I've done everything else. What other sort of pools can I look into? And it was a different sector, and it was a fresh lead of pools. So it really gave me some insight on how I could contact those commercial prospects and generate their business as well as me.
Awesome. And what sort of revenue level were you at when you joined? Just to give people a reference of like what stage you were at when you came into the space.
I would have, in terms of revenue that I had made then, I was probably at the 40,000 mark. But it really grew the recurring revenue annually. So obviously I hadn't made that at that stage, but looking back from now to what I'm envisioning that I make annually, it's easily 3 or 4x increase.
Yeah, wow. So 3 or 4x increase in 5 months,
Yeah.
7 months. That's pretty insane. And that's only going to continue to compound. Like, that snowball is built now. You pretty much pushed it up the hill, and it's on the precipice now, and you're about to roll it down. And so I think you can expect a few more multiples of return. So it's a very exciting inflection point for you. Very excited to see what you do with it and where you go. But look, Julian, thanks very much for coming on. It was amazing to chat with you and learn about your experience and your story. You're a very, very diligent business owner. Very, I see a lot of similarities in you, like similar to what I've done and how I operate. So that's really cool. But you've got a lot to be proud of. So well done. And yeah, thanks again for coming on and sharing your story.
Of course. I'm looking forward to the new community relaunch.
Awesome. Me too. I can't wait.